Hi, everybody. Welcome to another PCA Sim Racing Classroom for Season 13. This week, we are going to be tackling a new track to PCA Sim Racing, which is the Hungaroring. We're going to be in the GT3R like we've been all season, but we're tackling a new Formula One track, which is comprised of very, very fast sweeping technical sections. It's a great track to drive, a little difficult to pass. We'll go over all that here in a second when we run through the track walk. But as we were talking, we were just kind of mentioning the new update that came to iRacing and some of the new quirks of what we got going on. I think we hit all the major topics. And while I launch this replay, if anybody has any other comments, since you've been running in week 13, or any things that maybe we aren't aware of, feel free to speak up about some of the changes to the sim. But I think that was the main ones: the changes to the prototype tires, the changes to the lighting, and then the debris flag that is now omnipresent and I'm sure going to be everywhere as people go off and drag junk onto the track. All right.
Do you think the gravel on the track or debris on the track has gotten any worse since the update? Because it doesn't seem to
I don't
really affect.
No, it doesn't really affect things, does it? And I'm kind of happy it does it. Is there a change? Probably, maybe a little bit, but with the amount of gravel I've seen strewn across the track in certain spots, I'm glad it's not having like a very, very a huge impact. And frankly, in real life, it doesn't do a whole lot, unless there's like a ton of rocks out there that you're driving over. Just the occasional rock here or there is not going to really change too much in the way you drive and the amount of grip that you have. So it's kind of just informative, if anything. Who knows? Maybe in the future they'll add oil spills, oil slicks, as people blow motors and stuff like that, and then it'll get interesting, to say the least.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
I would laugh and kind of love it. But if you're the recipient of a puncture or an engine failure or something like that, it wouldn't be fun if you didn't do anything wrong. All right. Any other questions, comments before we get started?
Well, I've been driving this track with the fixed setup in the GT3, and the traction control comes on all the time.
Yes.
And it's really painful. And I'd like some advice on how to deal with that.
Yeah. So with the trash and this track in general, it's easy to engage traction control because you've got some of these relatively tight corners, but not just tight corners, off camber corners, where the track is doing everything in its power to prevent you from having grip, to put it a nice way. So off camber, turning, a little bit of a sweeper, everything about the corner is trying to make you lose grip. And if you go a little too quick, you're going to definitely be sliding the rear and engaging traction control. The other thing that can happen is a lot of these corners have a little bit of curbing on the inside, and if you get up on the curbing too much on the inside and you get on the power too early, that curbing can also act to over rotate the car and put too much yaw. And if you get on the power too soon with that curbing with your two tires in the air, that will also engage traction control and cause it to get in there. So one of the things you just really have to be aware of, and it doesn't matter what setup you kind of use. I mean, yeah, you can mitigate some of it with setup, but if you're in the fixed, if you're in sport or challenge, for instance, and you're running a fixed setup, you can't do anything about setup at all. And so the best way to mitigate that is to make sure that you're unwinding your hands when you go to throttle, that you're not at a 90-degree steering angle and then slamming on the throttle really hard, and that will engage the traction control. As you unwind the steering wheel, then you can start feeding on the throttle, and you're going to have to be very, very careful in terms of when you apply throttle. Make sure you've got the car pointed relatively straight before you go to full throttle, and that'll help alleviate the traction issues that you're seeing, or engaging traction control too much. If you're in traction control, if you're just tickling the lights, it's okay in these cars. If you're like leaning on it hard, it's going to cut power, and your lap times are going to suffer as a result. So try to drive it as though it's a cup car. Try to stay out of traction control when you can, but knowing that sometimes it's unavoidable. But just ease out your pedals and ease out your steering. Be a little smoother with everything to try to avoid running it. If you want to get some practice with it, go into like an open session or a test session, and that you would have an open setup. Take the fixed setup and turn off the traction control. Just completely disengage it, turn it off to 0, and then go run some laps that way and see where the car's stepping out, where you're losing that traction, and focus on driving it without traction control. And then when you put the traction control on, the traction control is just a safety net for, instead of spinning, you'll just hit traction control. But you'll know in your head where those spots are, and you'll already start balancing or changing the way you drive based on that session you did with no traction control. So that would be my suggestion.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let's tackle Hungaroring. It's a bit of a long track, or at least it's got a lot of corners, and it's very technical, so we need to probably get right into it. As I said in the little brief, Hungaroring has got a lot of turning complexes, chained corners that go right to left, and so there's a lot of throwaway corners, or what we would call a throwaway corner, where we don't take the traditional, go to the outside of the corner, apex at a natural spot, and then track out to the outside of the track again. Sometimes we have to pinch corners off, where we don't track out all the way to the edge of the track because there's another more important corner coming up. So this course is kind of rife with those types of situations. Also on the back side, or the latter half of the track, it seems like there's a lot of corners that feel very similar to each other. And we can kind of take the same approaches to them, but they are characteristically a little bit different, and we'll talk about that. And then finally, we'll talk about some of the visuals that you can expect to see that might help get your eyes up, looking down track, and clue into where you can start getting on throttle and unwinding your hands to get a good run out of some of these corners. But we'll take each corner in succession like we normally do. If you have any questions on any of the corners as they come up, just go ahead and ask. Just pipe up and say, hey, go back to that, or what happened, or what'd you do there, and we can visit it as they come up. All right, so here we go. So we're coming up into turn 1 down the straightaway. The thing about turn 1 is it is it's slower than you think, and it lasts longer than you think. It's slightly downhill, meaning that the track is trying to force you to understeer, so it makes it very difficult to slow down for this corner. So coming into the corner, we've got some good brake markers over on the left. Unfortunately, we can't brake at any of these boards. We need to be braking earlier than the board. So I am getting on the brake pedal right here is my first instance of the brake pedal. It's probably would be at the 150 board if there was a 150 board. Unfortunately, there's not really any markers to kind of see other than the 100 boards down ahead of me, about 50 yards or 50 meters in front. So you really need to practice on seeing what the sight picture looks like coming into this corner to be really comfortable with the where you should be braking.
You show your cockpit view, Chris?
Sure. So coming into this corner, this is what it looks like for me. And as you can see, there's not a blade of grass, there's not a line, there's not a fence post. There's lots of fence posts, but so they're all bleed together. There's not really anything in terms of this is my brake point, this is where I need a brake. And I would say that this is probably the most difficult brake zone because of that. There's no consistent marker. So get familiar to what the sight picture looks like coming into this corner and where you need to brake. But for me, it's about where the 150 board would be if there was a 150 board. We're going to go down, brake really hard. So we're going to like an 8 or a 9 pedal right on the edge of ABS on the way into turn 1. And what we want to do is we want to imagine turn 1 as a super late apex corner. It is almost a hairpin The only reason it's not, I wouldn't classify it as a complete hairpin, is it's technically an increasing radius. So after the apex, the radius of the corner is increasing and it's opening up, which means we can get on throttle sooner. But for all intents and purposes, the entry is almost hairpin like. So we're going to take it in super deep, super wide on the entry here. So we will go all the way out here and we will start to turn in basically at the flag stand over here on the left. So as the flag stand passes our view, we're starting our turn in. We're going to miss the tendency or the invitation to get down to this curbing too early. And we are going to try to apex way on the back end of it. We can get up on the curbing a little bit. Don't take too much of it because it will upset the balance of the car. But nibbling it is just fine. But if you can see, we are apexing, I'd say, 5/8 of the way around, 3/4 or 2/3 of the way around, 3/4. We are way past the halfway mark on this curbing, on the apex curbing. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to get a good run coming out of the corner. So we're driving it in super deep, diamonding the corner, and then getting a good acceleration coming off the corner in a super late apex. If we turn in too early, and we turn in where we see this first curbing, so let's say we take this line down to the curbing, what's going to ultimately happen is we're going to have to overslow the car and kind of just slowly drive around the inside of the corner like a carousel. It's going to delay our ability to get back on throttle and accelerate out of the corner. So we're getting the turn done over here early so we can get the car pointed in a good direction, get on throttle sooner, and get a nice good run coming out of the corner. I'm in second gear on the way through here, and as I'm opening my hands in second gear, or as I'm accelerating or as I'm feeding on throttle, I am opening my hands, just as we talked at the beginning when Anchor was talking about how to avoid getting into traction control. To avoid traction control, allow more grip to enter the car by asking the car to do only one thing, which is accelerate. So you release your hands, you release your steering angle. That allows you to add more throttle because the tire is not doing two things at once. If we look at from the cockpit, visuals of what to look at, let's go to cockpit. As we turn into this corner, our eyes should be over here at the curbing. We should be looking where we want the car to go. Once we get down to the apex, we should be looking up and we should be looking through the corner. If you've got triples or VR, you should be looking down the straightaway at this point if you can see it. You can't see it from my view right now because it's only my center monitor, but I am essentially looking as far down as I possibly can. So we're looking past all these Pirelli signs, and we basically want to drive our car and unwind to where the car is pointing after the last Pirelli sign down here. So that's kind of our visual. Drive to the end of the Pirelli signs. Don't accelerate into the Pirelli signs, if that makes sense. Oh, far chase. All right, we get a good run coming out of turn one. Nice, quick, kind of still going to the right, but it's all flat, no worries. And we come to, I would say, probably the most difficult corner on the track. This next turn, which I think is turn 3, because I think they classify that as a turn, what we just went through, but I'm not totally sure on the turn number, so bear with me on that. But coming into this tight left-hander, it's very, very tight. It's downhill and it's off camber. Everything about this corner is trying to get this car to understeer off into the weeds onto the outside of the track. Much like turn 1, we want to do there's two schools of thoughts on this corner. We can do a late apex, or we could get down to the curb and kind of follow it around. This corner is a throwaway corner. It is setting up for the next right-hander, which is very fast. We do not want to track out all the way to the right side of the track, exiting this left-hander. So whether you drive it in deep, like turn 1, and then apex once on a very super late apex, or whether you get down to the curbing super early and just drive it around nice and tight, that's up to you, or some hybrid between the two, that's totally up to you. I was finding that I was quickest when I go and dive down into the corner pretty quickly and take it like a carousel. We have some really good braking markers on like turn 1 here. So we've got a 100 board, we've got this bridge, and we've got this curbing starting down here. I was braking right at about the 100 board, if I recall correctly. Oh, actually past the 100 board. So I'm braking almost at the candy stripe curbing, maybe just a touch before it. Yeah, just a little before it. So just after the 100.
Here.
And then right out here is I'm starting to get onto the brakes. So I'm before the candy stripe curbing, but pretty darn close to it. And then my goal here is to kind of drive in a straight line down to the curbing. So I'm going to brake all the way down in a straight line so I'm most efficient while I'm braking, but down to the curb. So I'll turn in here early. This particular one I didn't do it as severe as I thought I did. But I am turning in early, or would consider early. I didn't follow the candy stripe curbing like turn 1. I turned in a little bit early. As I'm coming down into the corner, I am bleeding off the brakes, so I'm trail braking all the way down. And then once I kind of get that car to take a set after that trail brake, I'll start to transition to a little bit of throttle, a little bit of maintenance throttle. The car is still coming in tight, so it's decreasing its radius, and I'm coming down to the apex while adding that maintenance throttle. And then at this point, I'm steering the car with the throttle. If I need to get the car to take a tighter line, I lift off the throttle. If I am going in too tight, I'll add throttle, but keep the same steering angle all the way through. Once I exit, I don't want to go anywhere past mid-track. This is my exit point here. We don't want to track all the way out to the right, because the important corner here is this fast right-hander coming up. A visual that I like here for this corner is on the exit, keeping my eyes up. I'm looking at the yellow Pirelli signs again, or DHL. They're yellow. I don't know who sponsors them. Or no, Pirelli will come up. It is Pirelli. So there's the Pirelli flags. So much like turn 1, we don't want to accelerate into the flags. We want to accelerate after the flags. There's a flag station right here that we can start unwinding and start kind of releasing the corner as we get to it. I like using the flags as more of a reference. So as the car is passing all the flags, once we realize that we're going to start passing this last flag, we can kind of open our hands and start actually accelerating out of the corner. If we start accelerating too soon, like when we first see these flags, like right here, if you get on full throttle at this point, you're going to end up all the way on the outside of the track and be in a terrible spot for the next corner. So wait, be patient, and then make sure your car is going to be tracking out towards these 3 flags, if not after them. And don't go past mid-track. If we do it right, we'll be able to get the car over to the left just enough to turn in for this super fast right-hander. We're still going downhill, so there's not a whole lot of grip in the car. I will do a little short shift, so I'm in 3rd gear right here, and I will short shift to 4th gear as I enter in. If you need to do a little chicken lift to make sure the car is staying tucked in, by all means do it. It's more important to be online and be safe than to drive wide or risk spinning the car. So come in here. If you need to take a little lift, no problem. We're going to use all of this curbing on the inside. We're going to kill it. Basically right side tires touching the grass on the way through. Flat if we can manage it, and we will track out all the way to the exit. Your best runs through here, you will be flat. But again, if you need to lift, you should definitely do it. In this case, I actually do a little tiny lift right here. So you can see I've lifted from 100 to 95%. And that was just to get the nose to tuck in a little tighter because I was running a little bit wide. You can actually see where I'm grabbing 4th, the car spit. So right, well, I didn't do it that time. But if we go to cockpit, you can see I'm in 3rd and I grab 4th right here. So I grab 4th before red line. And that's just to make sure the car is nice and stable through this super high load, high speed right-hander. We're going to be hitting the curb. If we don't grab 4th early, we'll be grabbing 4th right when the car is like hitting the curb and unsettled. And then we're putting shock into the system with the gear shift. It's just a lot to ask for the balance of the car to maintain. Just get the 4th shift early before you hit the curb so it's nice and smooth, or you only have to deal with the curb.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you explain what you might determine on especially the inside red and white curbs, what the track limit is? Because I find it's kind of inconsistent, it seems like to me.
Yeah, it is a little bit inconsistent on this particular track. rule of thumb for all of these types of curbs like this, and we'll talk about the other curbs as we get a little closer. But the rule of thumb is, so long as you keep 2 tires on the gray stuff, you should be good. So coming through here, as you can see here, I've got my left tires on the gray stuff, touching the gray stuff. This is not a 1X. On the exit coming through, so long as you keep a set of tires on the right side of the candy stripe, you should be good. If you take and get these right side tires on the left side of the candy stripe and potentially touching this white line, so any part of these tires kind of coming over this, you're going to get a 1X. That's my general rule of thumb. There's some spots on the track where it seems to not necessarily obey this. Theoretically, you should be able to look at the rules section here, this tab right here, and it will tell you for every corner where the 1X is and what it means. This is the way it's programmed in the sim, so this should be accurate. But in reality, it sometimes doesn't seem to be that way. But my rule of thumb is when you're going on apex curving like this, make sure you've got 2 wheels on the gray stuff. When you're on track out curbings, make sure you got 2 wheels on the curbing itself, and you should be fine.
This track out spot, is this the spot where you can get a slowdown? I can't remember.
You may if you get way out here, but frankly, you shouldn't even have to get out here. If you're getting all the way out here, then you got bigger problems. You probably took this corner too fast and ended up over here and then tried to take it too fast going
No,
through.
it's the next turn up there. That's the one where you can get.
Oh,
get
yeah.
the
The
slowdown.
next one you can definitely get it. But this
Yeah,
one, you shouldn't. Yeah, I've gone out here a little bit. Like I've taken it too wide or something like that and kept my foot in it. And you just pick up a 1X. It's really not that bad. But to the extent that you can, keep it nice and clean. There shouldn't be any reason to really pick up a 1X here. Great questions. All right, let's say we got an amazing run through there. 4th gear, we're coming up to this left-hander coming up. Super tricky in the sense that you can't see anything. So you've got to rely on your markers coming through here. We've got a curbing on the right. We've got a line. We've got a billboard down here. There's a lot of visuals that we can use for this corner. And so we should be using them, frankly. So what I like to do is I like to brake pretty much right before the candy stripe curbing. So you can use the line. I use the curbing because it's red. So I brake right here. And then as I brake, it's not a hard brake. It's kind of a set the front for the left-hand turn. So 50% pedal, or maybe about a 60 or a 6 or 7 pedal, just to get the car slightly slowed and also get the weight on the front. As I do it, I tuck the car in, or I turn it to the left. And my goal is to turn and basically turn the front of the car past this billboard, so the left side of the billboard. As I crest the hill, I'm looking for the red curbing. As soon as it pops up, I'm downshifting to 4th. We're going to use this curbing in 4th gear. Make sure we get off the brakes as we crest over the curbing because it's unsettling the car. So almost coast over it, land on the back end, and we should be able to pop back on throttle and ride it all the way out. We can go over the curbing, get our left side tires on this red curbing. That's not a 1X. If we go too far, then you will pick up that 1X. Understand that also the curbs on this track are 3D curbs. So when you hit these curbs like this, you want to be pretty much going straight. You don't want to have a lot of steering into the car when you're going over these curbs or making any sudden movements while going over them. Coming through here to show what it actually looks like from the cockpit, because it is tricky. So as we come up, we will brake right at the curbing. We're going to tuck it in. So we follow the curbing just briefly. We're going to tuck it in. Our visual before we can see this curbing is, again, this billboard. We're going to try to apex. We're going to try to get the car turned in and try to drive it to the left side of this billboard. You'll see the curbing as soon as you do that. And once you see the curbing, then you're visually, you know what you're doing. But it's just as we're coming up to it, we can't see anything. So we're looking at that billboard, brake, tuck it into the billboard. Okay, there's the curbing. Now I can drive over it. Full throttle on the way out. So that's what I mean by keeping your eyes up. If you're not looking ahead or looking way down in advance and you've got your eyes right here in front of the car, you're going to have a really tough time with this corner because you don't know what you're looking for. But if you keep your eyes way up and you're looking over here at this point, even before you start braking, you're looking at the billboard and where you want the car to go, you'll instinctively turn the car in and you'll be in a really good spot to hit that curb and jump over it.
And that's where you can pick up a slowdown. A friend told me that. I've never done that, but
Yeah.
it happened right there.
If you go four wheels over this curbing, like if you put your left side tires right of the green curbing, yes, you will pick up a slowdown here.
Yeah, you also get it on the inside curb.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
If you jump this curb too much, like if you put your left side tires in the grass, you'll get a slowdown here. But play that what I had said before in terms of your apex curbings. Make sure you got at least two tires on the gray stuff, and you'll be fine. So this is totally fine. And in fact, I probably could have cut it a little bit more, but on this particular corner, there's a lot of room before you get to the grass. So if you put your left side tires on this grass, you're going to get a slowdown.
Wait, are you saying we can get more up on the concrete there?
You may be able
long as we
to.
don't-
Yeah, it's. I
I
have
don't think you can go all the way to the grass.
no, you
I've
can't.
had several.
Yeah, you can't get all the way to the grass. I wouldn't put the right side tires on the curbing. Let's put it that way. I would make sure you've got your right side tires right of the white line at some point.
So it doesn't follow the same rules as some of the other curbs.
No,
You
it
gotta-
doesn't. And if we look at this particular corner, no, that's the final corner. I don't think it. Oh, it's right here. So it just says on corner exit. It doesn't say anything about the apex, which is not helpful at all. So again, I don't flirt with it because all it takes is a millimeter the wrong way if you're really getting up on it to get a slowdown, and that's going to kill everything. So I'm erring on the side of caution. But try it. See how close you can get, and how close you can get, and how much you can cut before you get that slowdown. But my rule of thumb is keep one side of the car attached to the track surface, and you'll be fine.
There is a 1x in between. You can get a 1x without a slowdown on that inside. It's not an immediate slowdown.
There you go.
Is that coming from you putting all four wheels on the? I mean, I hadn't tried that because that's my number one curve to miss. But is that coming? You get a 1x if you put all four tires on the curb.
I don't know what the exact line is, but I've hit 1x's there without getting a slowdown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a super narrow 1x window. And frankly, the hard thing is to get down to the curbing. So the tendency is just to miss this curbing altogether because you can't see it until it's too late. If you're waiting to see this before you turn in, you're never going to hit it. It's impossible. So you have to preemptively turn in to take the right line. So you're turning in blind, and then to get a slowdown, you're going to have to turn in way early to get it because you're not going to see it. So it's difficult to get the slowdown. The tendency is to miss the curbing right, just because you can't see it. Fourth gear through here, I mean, you can take third gear, but the car is completely wound out, and you'll probably overslow the car, frankly. Keep it in fourth, you should be fine. So now we come to the big right-hand sweeper. I was playing with multiple lines. The fastest line for me, what seemed, was get down to the curbing, shorten the corner to the least distance traveled. So on, like turn one, we take it in deep and then do a super late apex. And this one, it's more like a carousel. Get it down to the curbing and just ride the inside as best as you can. That tends to be a little bit quicker. I missed it a little bit here, but it is what it is. There's only so fast you can go through it. Where I'm looking for this orange, eyes up, I'm looking for this orange safe exit on the track. So this orange block. Once my car crosses that orange block and I am basically coming into the corner, so I'm still decreasing the radius when my front end crosses this orange block, I know I can get on full throttle and let the car track out at that point and be safe. So as I go to the cockpit, I see that orange block. I'm waiting for the front end to cross it. Once the front end crosses that, I can pick up the throttle and mash it and be totally fine on exit. So that's one of the instances where orange stuff is actually really helpful to find out where you can start accelerating onto some of these big long corners. Is this particular corner. There's a lot of lines through here, frankly. I mean, you can take a single apex super late and be fine. You can take it super shallow and ride the curbing all around and make it the least distance travel. All of them are within half a tenth of a second viable. And frankly, if you get down to the corner early, so if you're coming through this corner and you turn in early and get down early, you're protecting it from attack from somebody behind that may have gotten a really good run and is being enterprising and thinking about attacking you. So if you turn in early and get down early, it makes it really difficult for somebody to pass. I'm not going to go around your outside here. There's no way.
Are you light braking into this turn? Yeah, you
Yeah.
are. You're just bleeding speed off into the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Another big important thing to remember about this track, and I probably should have said it at the very beginning, is a lot of these turns are really long. So you've got a lot of steering in it consistently. That does two things. One, it wears your tires. So because as you're turning, you're scrubbing the tire. But two, the tire is, as you have steering angle, it's effectively slowing the car down. So you're turning the car, there's a lot of friction that you're adding to the front end of the car. It's slowing the car down by the act of turning. So the tendency is to go too slow through a lot of these corners. Really work to try to focus on getting off the brake pedal. Get off the brake pedal earlier than you think, and let the steering slow you down rather than your brakes. That means you'll carry more speed into the corner, but you'll be fine because the steering angle will scrub that speed, and you'll be able to in the first third of the corner carry more speed in. So like for this particular corner, as I come in, there's my brake pedal. It's like a 5 pedal, no more than that. And then I start bleeding off of it. I'm trail braking in, and then at this point I'm basically off the brakes. And I'm off the brakes because if we get to the point where I get to almost zero brake right here, I'm at 70 miles an hour. By the time I get to the apex through just steering, my min speed is 62 miles an hour. So I've scrubbed 8 miles an hour, not by braking, but just letting the car coast and scrub its speed through the act of steering. 8 miles an hour. If you kept your brake on through that first third of the corner, thinking you needed to keep slowing the car down with the brakes, you may end up at 55 miles an hour, much slower. And that means that speed you'll never get back. So really focus on getting off the brake, let the steering scrub that entry level speed, and see how much speed you can carry into the corners with that amount of steering.
There's a lot more of those kind of turns as we go on.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. The second half of this track gets even more so that way. You got to really feel like second to last corner and the last final corner are very much get off the brakes, coast it through the first part of the corner, let the steering angle slow you down, not the brakes. All right, we've gotten through that slow corner, and that, in my mind, that marks the first half of the track. And frankly, we're at the first half. We're on the backside. So is there any question between turn one and the little chicane that's coming up? Let me just check the stream to see if anybody has anything. Seeing none. Okay, cool. All right, so let's tackle the latter half of this track. The latter half starts with this stupid little chicane that I call it. We've got a really good spot to brake, which is the curbing. I am using this curbing as my brake marker, and I'm going to brake down to second gear. I'm going to turn in what always feels super early, so I'm going to take a ton of this inside curbing, keeping my left side tires on the tarmac, but I'm going to jump the curb as much as I can and keep the car turned because we're going to have to set up for the left-hander coming out of the corner. So brake right here. It's a very heavy brake pedal. We're threshold braking essentially here. And then we're going downhill also slightly, so the car doesn't really want to stop. We'll stay on the brakes while we do our initial turn in. Right around here, our eyes are up. We're looking at the curb where we want the car to go. We're not looking in front of the car. We'll turn in what always feels early, and we're going to jump this curb. Left side tires are still on the concrete. We're starting to pick up. We're not going to carry brake over the curb. In fact, we're pretty much very quiet on the pedals, jumping the curb because we've got 2 tires in the air. We'll start adding throttle, so when we land, the car is going to squat and be more stable. And the goal is to set up for this left-hander. We'll put our left side tires, we'll tickle the little turtle here, Left side tires will touch it. We don't want to obviously put our left side tires over it because it will jump the car. We also risk getting a slowdown if we take too much. But our left side tires, tickling it is totally fine. Our right side tires are on the tarmac as that rule of thumb that I mentioned. We're full throttle coming through here. We should be absolutely full throttle on the way through to get a good run in second gear. Opening our hands on the exit and using all of the concrete that's allowed to us. If we get our right side tires touching the grass, we'll pick up a 1X. So make sure we just stay on this little run out and you should be fine. So I'll back it up and show what it looks like. So brake at the curbing, turn in a little early, second gear, off the brake, start feeding up a little maintenance throttle, full throttle, good run coming out. Coming up to this left-hander, this is kind of starting these weird little, I mean, they are chicanes, but they're wider. There's more distance between each corner. So this left-hander, we can take it in third gear. I like it in third gear. Second gear is possible, but I always found like I'm just stressing the car too much and as Anchor said, getting into traction control too much in second gear. So I like third gear, keep the momentum up. These are kind of just like traditional 90-degree corners. We're going to take it nice and wide on the entry. We'll turn in. The only problem is you don't really have many markers for when I should turn in. So our vision needs to be looking up. We need to be looking to see what the sight picture looks like, and our experience on what that looks like for our turn in is what's going to dictate when we need to turn in. We're going to put our left side tires nibbling the curb if we can. I actually missed it on this particular lap a little bit, but you can get up. You can put your left side tires on the curb. I wouldn't get up all the way up on the curb because that will raise the car too much and will create an unstable state. We want to keep it pretty stable so when we come out, we can get on throttle early and get a good run coming out of the corner. On exit, we don't want to go past mid-track because the important corner here is this right-hander coming up. So we want to be able to get the car over to the left to set up this important right-hander. Again, it's like another 90-degree corner, just like the previous one, just a little bit faster. We want to touch the curbing on the inside. Our eyes are going to be up, and we're going to be looking for the candy stripe curbing on the way out. We don't want to cross over and put our right side tires over the curbing, but we can exit and use the run out and use the curbing as track out like this, and this is not a 1X. This corner can be tricky because, again, there's no visual coming out of the corner to say when you can really get on throttle. So the only way you can really do it effectively is practice and looking for that candy stripe curbing as soon as you can. So this is what it looks like from the cockpit. You turn in, you're waiting to see, you start picking up throttle here, but you're looking for this candy stripe curbing, and that is kind of the line you're trying to take coming out of the corner. The only way you're going to see that early enough is keeping your eyes up, looking through the corner. If you're looking right in front of the car, you'll never see it until it's too late, frankly. If you want to pick a tree as a visual in terms of when I can get on throttle, we've got 4 trees here. I'm trying to do it, as I go, but I'm still not on full throttle. I'm still waiting. So maybe these 2 trees right here. So these two little trees, once you get those and you're crossing over them and you've got it tight to the apex, once you cross over that, boom, I'm full throttle basically as I cross those 2 little trees. So maybe that's a good visual right here if you're looking for something a little bit more concrete of when my nose passes that and I'm at the apex, I can get on full throttle in third gear and get a good run coming out of the corner. We got a very fast left-hander coming out of that's next. So again, another of these little left-right chicanes. The difference here being is that the left-hander is much less severe than the previous left-hander. We should be absolutely flat through here, but we do have to make sure we're getting our left side tires all the way over and keeping the steering angle in the car to allow us to keep the car over to the left. I'm breathing a little bit here just to ensure that I get the car over to the left. Your mileage may vary depending on track conditions and such. We definitely don't want to go past mid-track on the exit. If we go too far out here, we're in a terrible situation for this super important right-hander. So we're in 4th gear, get the car all the way over to the left. It's much like the previous right-hander. but faster, frankly. I'm in fourth gear. I tuck in. We have a much better visual because we've got an orange block down here, which can be our visual of when we want to start accelerating out of the corner. So we turn in, front end of the car passes the orange block or is getting near it. We accelerate. When we see that orange block, we use all the track in the run out room. Careful not to take the right side tires and push them over into the green. That'll be a 1X. And then if we go past that, I think there's a slowdown if you go far enough. So showing what that looks like over here. As we come through, we keep the car left, keep the car left. Our eyes are up. We're going to brake at the beginning of the candy stripe curbing. Tuck it in. There's the orange. Boom. Accelerate. Fourth gear. Unwinding our hands and riding it all the way up. Any questions through those little very similar left-right corners that look almost identical, but they are different. Just making sure there's nothing on stream. Okay, yeah. All right. Okay, coming down to the last three corners, we've got a pretty fast or faster than you would think right-hander. Candy stripe curbing 100 board I like to use just before the candy stripe curbing as my brake marker. We're going to downshift all the way to second gear. So brake, brake, brake. Nice wide entry. We're going to do a little bit of a late apex, but it's almost traditional. So we're going to apex probably just after the halfway point. Off the brakes, start accelerating. And as the run out, use the run out as we can, as we've done previous. You can touch and go over this apex curbing. Just understand that if you do go over it, don't use throttle as you drive over it, because there is a bit of a bump that can unsettle the car. So either don't use any of it and get a good run coming out, or if you're going to use it, make sure you're very quiet on the pedals jumping over the curb. It's faster than you think it is. Your car should end up here because the car has to, based on the speed that you've taken through there. Second to last corner is a tricky one because it never seems to end. This is the tightest corner on the track, the slowest corner, and it just never ends. I was finding like a lot of these really tight corners on this track, it seems to make more sense to try to get down to the curbing earlier rather than later. So kind of get down early, ride it around, as opposed to super wide and then diamonding the corner out here and trying to get a run coming out. So try to get down to the curbing as best you can. I'm in second gear, and you just have to wait. Be patient. We can start picking up throttle as we cross the flag stand number 23 crosses our visual. So if we're looking up, we see the flag stand. Boom, we've crossed it. We can start picking up throttle. We're looking for the candy stripe curbing as well. That's our second indicator that, hey, there's the exit of the corner is the striping. We can start accelerating and use that as the edge of our track. Use all of it. This is technically pit entry, but it's also a racing surface, so use it all. If you are entering pit lane, then you're obviously going to have to keep going straight. If you're not doing pit lane, you can immediately just hold that same angle and move the car over to the left to set up for the final corner. We're going to do a little bit of a light brake in order to get the front end to set and also slow the car down a little bit. I like taking a nice wide angle through this corner because what we want to do is we want to set up this longest straightaway on the track, which is the front straight. So we want to get a good run. We want to get on throttle early so we can carry speed onto the straight and carry it all the way down the straight. So we're taking a super wide entry with a super late apex. We're looking for the where was I looking for? I remember thinking about it when I was driving. Yeah, so we have another one of these orange blocks, but a little bit later than the orange block is where we want the car to kind of tuck in a little bit more than that. So as we start to see the Aramco barrier, that is a good indicator. Or if we look way up here, we see the grandstands. As the grandstands start to end apexing with the gray curbing, that's another indication of we want to drive that car over that and accelerate out of it, and we should be good. So I'm full throttle at this point and just riding the car all the way out to the exit. This curbing, I do remember, seems to be the most forgiving in terms of 1Xs. I remember taking this and going really wide and getting my left side tires like on the gray and still not picking a 1X up. So you can carry a lot of speed coming through that final corner out onto the front straight and still be fine without a 1X.
Did you take that last turn in third?
I did. I took it in third. I've been taking it in third. I've tried second. I feel like I'm overslowing the car and having to wait too long. Third gear seems to allow me to carry more momentum. I mean, my min speed is 63 miles an hour. So this is my min speed right here as an example. So my min speed is not at the apex of the corner. It's way over here. At the actual apex of the corner, which is here, I'm full throttle. I'm at 77 miles an hour and accelerating in third on my way out.
Chris, did you play with getting on that curving on the right, the cement curving? It really upsets the car if you put your two tires on that.
It doesn't, and it's kind of the theme of this track, right? It always looks like you can take a lot of curbing on the apexes, but the more curbing you take, the more severe the bump gets. And the more severe the bump gets, you can use it to kind of, as soon as you hit it, it'll help turn the car. But if you put any throttle on while you've got those two tires in the air, you can just hear the diff spinning one wheel. Like the car is not engaged with the ground. So like this kind of line through here, getting up on this curb, is just going to slow me down because I'm going to be spinning a tire in the air. Traction control is going to kick in and stop the fun. And you're just not going to get a good run out. So I've learned what I was finding out is keep it clean, nibble it like this. That's totally fine, but I'm full throttle. My diff's engaged. I am accelerating out of this corner at this point without engaging traction control because the car is flat. So very good point. I don't like this curbing. Other people might find a way to get around it really well that way. But for me, I was finding myself losing 1/10 of a second getting up on this curbing. Yeah, good point, Mike. Just for reference too, this lap was done on the standard, the sport and challenge fixed setup, high downforce. Weather was pretty cold, so 70 degrees. And I did a 144.1. I think there was a 143 in the car. I just wasn't able to pull it out. These laps before that I was kind of warming up with were on a Sebring setup that I had, a custom setup. And so it didn't seem to be liking it as much. So I just switched to high downforce and immediately was in the 144s and then ultimately did a 144.1. So the standard setup is really good. For this track. It seems to be set up pretty darn well. Okay, so I am going to show what it looks like for this lap without stopping it, and I'll try to commentate on my way through from the cockpit. So coming up to turn 1, we're going to brake before, like at the 150 board, if there was one. We're going downhill off camber, so the car really doesn't want to turn. Super late apex, off the brakes. Start accelerating out, opening our hands as we accelerate. We're going to brake just before the curbing on the right, tuck the car in, down to second gear. Do I leave it in third? I leave it in third. Okay, leave it in third all the way through here. Don't track past mid-track. Early shift to fourth, clip the curbing, open our hands. We're going to brake at the candy stripe curbing on the right, turn in at the billboard. Fourth gear, use the curbing, back on throttle. Brake, nice and early, turn in, look for the orange bit, there it is, accelerate out, third gear. We're going to brake at the candy stripe curbing, turn in what feels like early, use all the curve, off the pedals, on them, good run coming out. Up to third, brake, nice late apex, don't go past mid-track, a little bit of brake, look for the trees, there they are, accelerate coming out. Fourth gear, keep the car left, a little bit of a brake, look for the orange marker, there it is, accelerate as we pass it. We're going to brake at the candy stripe curving, down to second gear, a little bit of a late apex, back on throttle, Let the car track out. Turn down early in second gear. Ride this curving around. Look for that flag stand. There it is. Accelerate coming out. Get the car over to the left. Keep it out left. Slow down. Off the brakes. Look for that grandstand. There it is. Accelerate out. Opening our hands for a lap of Hungaroring. All right. Any questions? There's got to be some questions. This track is not easy by any means.
Where are the best passing opportunities, Chris?
And there's the problem with Hungaroring. I predict this to be a lot of a parade. You are going to be where you're at, and it's going to be very difficult to pass people. The best passing opportunities you've got here is turn one. Turn one is by far the best place to pass. You get a good run out coming out of the final corner on an opponent. You draft on them, and you pop out, and you can take the really shallow line because it's such a slow corner. Anybody that is on the inside here is going to have the advantage all the way through because driving around the outside is just a long distance. So this is the absolute best place to pass. So really focus on setting it up coming out of that corner, the final corner. Conversely, if you were the car getting attacked and you want to defend going to one, dictate that you're going to defend, but I would do it way the heck back here. Just drive down the right side of the track. And that tells the guy behind that, hey, I'm not going to let you have this on its own. I'm not going to let you have it without a fight. They'll probably get online, and then you can kind of cheat over to set up the corner. Turn 2, let's just run through them. Turn through 2 is kind of terrible. You can try to shove it down the inside here and try to outbrake somebody. The problem is braking too late for turn 2 is going to force you to just wash through the corner, and you're going to go all the way through the corner out into the weeds. It's just very difficult to hold this corner from a shallow angle braking late. The car on the outside has all the advantage. If you're on the inside and you try to match the braking of a car on the outside, you're going to just run wide and they're going to over under you. So I really wouldn't advise trying to make a move into turn 2 unless your opponent makes a mistake. This is flat out, so turn 3, this is not a passing zone because the cars are flat. Turn 4, for much of the same reasons as turn 2, is not a passing zone. The cars there's really only one line through here. It's super fast. If you try to dive someone or you try to get alongside someone coming into this corner, you're going to have to be so slow at apex to make the corner itself that you're going to lose a second to the field and also the person you're passing if you're able to even control it. More likely you either cut the corner too much and get a slowdown here, or you run too wide on the exit and get a slowdown there, and then it'll negate the chance that you had. So I don't advise trying to pass into this corner at all. You can make a move. So let's say you get a good run coming through the last corner. This is probably be the second best place to pass, is coming into this right-hander up this hill. There's lots of lines through here. You can take a shallow line and still be quick. You can take a wide line and drive it around the outside with more speed and still be quick. So this would probably be my second best passing zone, would be here. The car on the inside is going to have a distinct advantage because even if you're too wide coming out, which is a very real possibility, the car on the inside's got a really good spot for the chicane coming up. I wouldn't try to pass into the chicane just because it's really awkward. There's really only one line through here. If there's a car on the inside here, they're going to have to basically stop the car on the apex to make the corner. It's just tough to get through here too wide, so I wouldn't advise it. So this is not really a passing zone. These next corners are super fast. So this one, the right-hander, and then the left-hander, and the right-hander, all of these corners are super fast. There's really no room to make a pass unless your opponent makes a mistake, frankly. But anywhere where you're flat, there's just no way to get an advantage on somebody else if both cars are flat because they're the same car. So all of these are just, they all are what they are. You can make a pass into this corner right here because of those technical sections if you do it better than your opponent, or they make a mistake, you can realistically get up alongside them coming into this right-hander. And this is just a traditional right-hander. So while you will both be slow if you go too wide into the entry here, the car on the inside is going to have all the advantage because they're going to travel a shorter distance. So this can be a passing zone. Call it the third potential passing zone. Getting a good run out of here can also yield you a potential good passing zone coming into the second to last corner, just because there's so many lines that you can take through here. So 2 cars can go too wide through here. Just be careful though, that if you do try to dive somebody or get on the inside and hug the inside, you're gonna have to be very slow on the entry into this corner to make the corner. Be careful not to run wide into the person you're trying to pass if they're trying to hold the outside. But you should be able to, if you're on the inside, you're going to travel such a significantly less distance than somebody on the outside. You should be able to make a pass happen. And then the final corner, I don't recommend trying to pass into the final corner, because if you're slow into this corner, you're slow all the way down the straight. I would rather set up somebody and get a good run coming through this corner and pass down the straightaway than trying to dive somebody on this corner to get ahead of them going into the straightaway. Odds are it happens if you dive someone here, you're slow through this corner, they set you up, and they just repass you down the straightaway going into turn 1. So I really wouldn't advise passing into the final corner. Unless it's the final turn of the final lap. Then that makes sense. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Hey, Chris, did you mess with brake bias at all?
I did not. I just ran it at stock. Seemed perfectly fine with me. Again, I was really, really happy with the way the car was driving on the high downforce sprint setup. Obviously, you need to add some more fuel to the car to make it, because you can hold more fuel for the race. But it seemed like a pretty good setup right out of the box. If you want to make some changes to the car, I would recommend, if you're not in sport or challenge and you want to change it, you can just change the ARBs. So like if the car is a little understeer or you want some more rotation, I think the rear is really soft on the standard setup, so you can stiffen the rear. That'll give you a little more rotation in the back of the car. Just be careful though, because coming out of some of these high sweepers, it can become a handful as the tires start to heat up and start to wear.
Thanks.
Yep. And let's just take a look at the awesome lighting. I mean, look at that. That gold paint is sparkling in that new lighting. They really did a good job. I hope this is an indication of things to come, especially when they finish the new renderer, the new graphics engine with this lighting. I mean, this is starting to get pretty photorealistic, especially on the cars. I mean, my settings are not maxed out by any means, and it looks phenomenal, frankly. So it's only going to get better and better. It's pretty exciting where we're ending up. All right, with that, I'm going to end the stream. So thank you in TV Land for watching, and good luck on your races coming up.